I would say the positive experiences that I've had in the church. Growing up in my teenage years, I loved the Boy Scouts. Growing up in my ward, we had a great Boy Scout troop, great Scoutmasters. We went out and we did a lot of great character building things that I still look back on and really cherish those memories. I would say also my mission was a very positive character building experience of my life. I think my mission was one of the hardest things that I ever did, but having achieved and accomplished 2 years of that kind of work and that kind of endeavor really has made me into a lot of the person that I am today. I would also say one of my experiences is in my 20s when I went on study abroad to the Middle East with BYU. I had some fantastic spiritual experiences and also some great interactions with my peers who are also members of the church over in the Middle East, and what an enlightening historical time it was to be in the Middle East then. I would say spiritually, high points in my life. I think coming out, when I came out to my family, was probably one of the most challenging spiritual times, but also the most enriching, because for the first time in my life, I was being completely honest about who I was and what I was about. And it took down the barrier that had existed for so long with my family. And I think that they saw a different side of me, a side that was a lot more open and a lot more willing to share my life and share my experiences with them.
Do you have any fond memories of scripture study or prayer? I mean, was that an important part of your life? Has it been an important part of your life?
Scripture study growing up, my parents are very, very committed to the LDS Church, and growing up we were always very committed to the LDS Church, and scripture study was part of our daily process. Every morning before we all went to school, scripture study was part of our breakfast. Morning prayer was also part of our breakfast. On Sundays, we had dedicated scripture study, and I think that really gave me an appreciation for the scriptures. And on my mission, I really took a love for the New Testament, and in the Middle East, I really took a love for the Old Testament and the value and the inherent value that you can learn about Christianity through the scriptures. I think also prayer is something that I still rely on heavily today in my life. Prayer will always be an important part of my life, and I think that I've grown in prayer in knowing that prayer is more of an open dialogue and an open conversation with my Creator that assures me that I'm loved, that I'm watched over, that I'm cared for. My church experience as I was coming out happened very gradually in stages. Many people have asked me, when did you come out? That's a very hard question for me to answer, because my coming out was a process that was probably 3, 4, 5 years. I would say the ultimate event of my coming out was the final event of my coming out, and that was telling my family and my parents, and that was something that I'd held out until I was 30 years old. Many of my friends had known about me being gay in my late 20s. And I would say my experiences in the church went through stages where I went through the phase of I have same-sex attraction, and now I need to deal with that, and now I need to fix that. And then I went through the phase of, all right, I've got same-sex attraction, I'm still going to try and make marriage work. I'm going to still date women. I'm going to tell this woman when I meet her before I marry her that I struggle with this, but that's okay. We can get through this together. And then I think after a few years of that defeating approach, I realized I don't want to date women anymore, and I don't want to be with a woman the rest of my life. And then came the period where I became exhausted and tired of the common rhetoric and the common things that were said at church and the common attitudes. And I found myself less and less motivated to attend church because I found the experience to be more negative than positive. And I reached the point where I wanted positive energy in my life, and I wanted positive experiences in my life. And so I chose to seek only positive experiences in my life. My experience in the church, I think that if I were not gay, I would definitely still be active in the LDS Church. I found a lot of value in the church. There were things that I always questioned in the church, even before I even acknowledged to myself or even was willing to admit to myself that I was gay. There were always things that I questioned. I always thought that I was a questioning Mormon, a progressive Mormon, but I always found a way to put those questions and those unsureties on the shelf and focus on what I really liked about the church, and that was a structure and a path and a well-defined process for fostering spirituality. I would say people often ask me today, knowing that I'm openly gay, and I get this question especially where I live in the Bay Area, am I still a Mormon? They wonder, can you be gay and Mormon? And that's a very interesting question because I still consider myself a Mormon, and I always will, because it's a very, very deep, innate part of me. I've chosen to no longer go to church, but I still consider myself a Mormon with some of those core values of Christianity, and also culturally, I still hold to a lot of those cultural Mormon ties.